I am going to call the board meeting of July 25th to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hartman, trustee Bratton,
Here.
trustee Brunner, trustee Berkman,
Here.
trustee Polakowski,
Here.
trustee Calvater, here, president Linko.
Here. To stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the village board encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. I don't think we have anybody here. Is there anybody? So we don't have Andy either? No. All right, we're at the consent agenda. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Does anybody have anything they'd like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Do I have a- Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right. I'm gonna, for village president, I just want to comment on something. We're going to be starting the budget process tonight. We end up getting the SIP. We'll just receive it. We'll start discussing it next month. Also, what will be on the agenda next month is overall budget process, and this will be an opportunity for comments on if you have improvements for whatever's left of this year or for next year. But I do want to quick summarize for new members and just a reminder for all of us, our authority. Under chapter 66 of state statutes under general municipality law, it sets forward on how the village is supposed to do business and what needs to happen, process for all kinds of things. 66.1333 sub 15 is budget, and it basically states that the local legislative body shall approve a budget for each fiscal year of authority and may alter or modify any item of the budget relating to salaries, office operations, and facilities. So this is what state statute requires us to do. We have to do it. We have certainly delegated some of the part, but that's what state statute says. I want to just read you something from our audit that everybody received. It's under communications of significant deficits and material weaknesses. And this is what it says under segregation of duties. The size of the office staff precludes a proper separation of functions as assured adequate internal controls. This is not unusual in organizations of your size, but the board should continue to be aware of the condition and realize that the concentration of duties and responsibilities and a limited number of individuals is not desirable from a control point of view. Under these conditions, the most effective controls lie in the board's knowledge and monitoring of matters relating to the Village of Cross Plains operations. The board of the Village of Cross Plains should take active part in monitoring matters relating to Village of Cross Plains operations. We also have a budget policy that everybody should be familiar with, and you all have received this magazine, the last issue of it. It's all on finance and budgeting, talks about best practices and stuff. So I take a look if you want. You're going to see that a lot of our procedures and our policies fit right in with best practices. So the August meeting will be taking care of that, but I just wanted to share that with you, that when we do this, it's not a matter of not trusting staff. It's not a matter of micromanaging staff, it's doing our job. That's what our job is. So I just wanted to share that with you. We'll start off the budget season next month with a discussion of any processes that people would like to see. All right, that's all I have. Village Vice President.
I think I read on Facebook, the Stingrays one, Crestline Stingrays, doesn't anyone know?
Well, their conference meets coming up,
I
right?
thought the one something
Tomorrow.
else.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. They may have won a dual meet
That's it. yes.
conference
Yeah.
title. That could
Won
be.
that, and they're
Okay.
on to the next, so good luck to them.
Yep.
That's it.
Any other trustee?
Um,
Cameron?
so I'm obviously newer here, but since starting in April, I haven't heard a peep from residents of the community, but in the last month, I have just heard a lot of stuff from a lot of people. And it's a lot of frustration with, I think it ultimately boils down to something you just kind of said, Jay, which is like how the budget works and like how that impacts property taxes and like what things work out from that. So I guess I was wondering if there was something we as the leaders of this community could be doing better to better educate or communicate how that process is done. You know, it's why isn't this road fixed? Why was the pool closed? This thing, that thing, why is the staff not there at the pool for this weekend? And again, all of it, I think, boils down to, look, here's this budget process and all how these decisions are made. So again, I think we should challenge ourselves as leaders of the community to figure out a better way to communicate this process and how this works to the residents, because I don't think it's getting through.
I would just say that I think some of that is just circumstantial. It's not, I mean, the budget we pass in November, so, you know, things happen between November and November that, you know, the pool closing was because the filters blew.
I understand that, and I explained it, but then that person was then engaging with me on like, well, my property taxes keep going up, why haven't I got a new pool? See, and I.
Oh, the
now,
property
see,
tax,
I understand that's way difficult to just answer, and I know why I understand why it hasn't happened yet, but we could maybe think of a better way to communicate and be transparent with that with residents, I guess.
all right, fair enough.
Do you think, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think, as far as them attending village board meetings would help? I mean, like, I know they posted on Facebook, like tonight's village board, and people can come, I mean, everybody's more than welcome to come to the meeting to help educate themselves. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, I, you know, encourage people to do that, right?
Right.
We obviously get limited attendance. Tonight's probably the most people I've seen at a board meeting, but, you know, I don't know if there's like some sort of like village budgeting for dummies kind of thing, because even if you came here, you know, this is a lot of information you're coming.
Oh,
in. It's a
absolutely.
very high bar of entry to understand that. So if there's just a way we could step back and be like, look, this is, you know,
There is a policy out there on it, so that would help a lot. Go ahead, Cody.
I was just gonna say, I think Becky was actually planning a series of Facebook posts explaining the process.
That-
That's
there you go.
something she had
That
mentioned
is-
recently.
some of the ideas that I was like, something like that would be amazing. I think.
So I'm talking with Becky with social media about this and the pages that we have together. She's working on updating the village website, so it's more navigable. And you can find what you're looking for a little bit easier. Now that she's on 40 hours a week. So that's something that's been in discussion.
I'm great with it, that's what I was thinking also. I just hope it doesn't become a bitch session also. I mean, we gotta control it somehow.
Right.
That it can't be just people.
If you come to a village board meeting, we would probably be.
Right. I mean, as long as she shuts it down.
I wasn't
fast and
looking to
says no.
solve the problem. I was just,
No,
I was
but-
encouraging all of us to think
But
about it.
here's what I would, one comment I would make, because I'm a fiscal conservative and people know I've been frustrated with some of the budgeting and voted against it. They should come to the public hearing related to the budget to share with all the board members how they feel and stuff. Because I've been president 3 years, we've had 0 people come to the public hearing on the budget. And finance did a huge study on our tax rates, and they're absolutely right, it's high. The only way to control that is control spending. And they need to be here to share that with the representative. But like I say, I'm all for doing that, but I just wanted to point out, I would also say you need to come to the budget hearing and let us know what you're feeling.
Yeah, and again, I understand that, but I have now, since moving here in 2019, it's spent way more time researching how this stuff works and
Yeah.
getting here in the knowledge base, and I just don't think your average citizen is going to do that. And I think there are things we can do to lower
Yeah,
that. barrier.
absolutely. I agree.
Facebook stuff, is there like a little PowerPoint presentation you can put on one night, I don't know, lots of
No.
general Q&A that isn't a public meeting, I don't know.
Sure.
just
Yeah, no,
brainstorm.
those are good ideas. All right, Administrator Brian.
I've got one quick update from trustee Brunner, who's not here this evening. He asked me to share two quick updates. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 2nd. And he wanted to say that the yard sign program that we had talked about recently has 4 sponsors, and the signs are now being printed. The 4 sponsors were Village of Cross Plains, Latitude Graphics, Cross Plains Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Badger ATV UTV Club. He also wanted to share that the Spike Ret community event is coming up quickly on August 5th and 6th, with many events like euchre, volleyball, beanbags, and a DJ for that evening. So encourages residents to come on out and enjoy the festivities. Now, as far as my updates, we just kind of talked about a few of the things that I was going to state, and just as far as some of the things happening around the village. I was going to share that Becky Ward was being tasked with a couple of updates to the village website. She had just completed an overhaul of the Parks and Rec page, which is the village's most visited website or web page from within our website. And she's going to be helping me with a couple of undertakings around the village with some of the zoning maps and getting some of those things updated and converted over to electronic file formats for future retention. I wanted to share that Mike Axon had some great progress on the pickleball court overhaul over at Bear Park. It's getting ready to be painted in the coming weeks here. So that was a great update and good service that's going to be brought into the community very soon. And I wanted to give kudos to our public works team. They have been dealing with all sorts of various unforeseen and unpopular happenings around the village. They had 2 water main repairs that they just took care of Friday and today over on Park Street. And on Saturday, we had a number of storms come through the area, and they took care of a lot of downed trees and tree branches on village property and the like. So a very strong thank you from everybody within the village here for all of their efforts on that front. As far as some of the things that I am currently working on personally, as Jay mentioned, we're going to be starting the budget. We had a department head meeting, which kind of came up with some ideas for planning related to the budget process for the new fiscal year, which is being shared. And we just recently began the first stages, preliminary stages of our new police union negotiation contract. So.
Thanks, 2 things to take up on it. As far as the trees that they're taking care of, are they going to do a big pickup for the people that did put their branches out on the side? Are they planning on doing that?
We've received a lot of calls. I don't know if it's yeah, a lot of people have called to get their names added. I don't know if we're doing an extra pickup. That is a good question. I don't know if it's anything different than the normal. That I do not have an answer to.
Okay.
Yeah.
They posted the sign up online today and said that tomorrow would be the day to do it, that they're gonna be going anyway, so they're gonna try and get to them as much as they can tomorrow.
Perfect. I'll guess that. And then the only other thing we forgot to talk about was the shredded. That's next week.
Oh, that's not.
No,
No,
August
we
9th.
have
August
August 9th. Thank you.
9th? Yes, August 9th, yes. the
Same
shredded.
day as voting.
Oh, yeah, that's right, okay.
Here at the Village Hall. I'll be sending you guys the flyer probably later this week to get it all, if you can get it out to all your serve list, you know, to get people knowing about it. I have all the information. Yeah, thank you. All right, we're gonna go to general business. I see Andy's not on, right? Oh,
I was gonna.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna try and get in there just with a little Parks and Rec.
Okay.
He kind of stole the thunder about the pool. It was closed for 9 days. We talked about it, Parks and Rec committee. they're saying that pool replacement needs to be considered, and then we told them they're forming a committee to go for that. It's not really really board guiding, but I wanted to let you know that was discussed there. The pool staffing is becoming an issue. They have to have 5 lifeguards on to open the pool publicly. It's the summertime, kids don't always want to be there. A dog park is going to be added to our agenda for our next meeting. We have a part-time hire at Helen Brand doing maintenance assistance, working on facilities and grounds. The playground behind Glacier Creek is delayed because of one of their salespeople left. We're still under contract. We just don't have a date of when it's going in. And then a big shout out to our summer camp, Kalia and Andrea. Over 300 kids there. So they're doing an awesome job. And support your local parks and rec program.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go to general business. I'd like to make a motion to move number 3 to number 1. And that'll be to postpone it since we don't have 6 members and you need 3/4 of the vote.
I'll make a motion to move number 3, approval of Meyer CSM to
Number 1.
number 1.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. All right, so let's do that first. This discussion and possible action of approval of Myers CSM. You need to have 3/4 of membership to pass one of those. Because we have 7 members, that's 6 votes that you need. We don't have 6 people to vote, so there's really nothing we can do. So can I have a motion to postpone to the next meeting?
I'll make a motion to postpone the Meyer CSM to the next meeting.
A second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Sorry.
I was say, I just want to apologize to Myers, the planning committee had to post delay on them one time too, so sorry guys.
Sorry about that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All right, we'll go to discussion and possible action on change order number 1 for 2021 well 3 construction. Kevin?
Hi, everybody. Just a refresher, Evan Chambers of Town and Country Engineering. It's been a little while since we've talked about well 3 over at Elder Park. Brian, I'm on 44 of the PDF, if that helps you.
That helps, thank you.
So the project, the well was drilled back this winter. We intentionally waited for restoration to occur this spring, site clearing. So what we have today is just a change order to true up the dollar amounts, because this is instead of a lump sum, this is a unit price bid, so the contractor gets paid for the quantities that were installed or not installed. So we have some adjustments here to do the first and final change order for $1,244. And then I have that ahead of the final pay request so that we can verify that the change order is approved and then do the final pay with municipal and close out contract pay. And that was just, again, just for the well drilling. We do that separately than the well house construction and pump and all of that because of potential issues that could come up with water quality, like we had to do with the PFAS testing and things of that nature. So this is completely independent of the actual physical construction of the building. We close this out with municipal well and pump, and we're rolling towards probably about a month from now, seeing some activity out at well 3. There's been some lengthy delays like everybody's seeing for getting materials and equipment, but pre-con for contract B will be in a couple weeks, and then we'll have more info from there. So a lot all at once. I haven't been here in a little while, so I wanted to make sure I said hi and make sure you guys saw what was on paper. But essentially, the first item will be to approve the change order for the 1,244. It's just kind of high level stuff based on the lengths and the quantities of that well. I'll say guesstimate based on geology and soil conditions going down, what the actual grout amount around that casing is gonna be, and that's that big change. And that basically just means the protection around the casing so that you don't have any chance for contaminant to shoot straight down along the metal casing. More grout, that means it's filling into the soil around it, better protecting the well. So there was some more grout than anticipated. That's the big change, but all in all, we're still only 1,200 above what the bid price was.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
All motion.
Yeah, approval of change order one.
Approval of change order number 1 for 2021 well number 3 construction.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, discussion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same, so move. All right, discussion and possible action on contractor's application for payment number 5, final for 2021 well 3 construction.
So pretty well, I think covered it, but essentially pay out that you guys are used to seeing. This just incorporates the 1,244 from previous item. For payment due of $11,776.60, and that will then close out the contract with municipal well pump. There is a 12-month warranty on that. Risk of anything for a hole in the ground being a warranty claim is minimal, but you do have that protection of 12 months of warranty after this. But
All righty, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we accept the final payment, number 5 for 2021 well 3 construction.
Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right, thank you, Evan.
you guys say more.
So we have discussion and possible action regarding chicken/duck ordinance. I'll do a quick summary of this plan. Has worked on this for at least 3-4 months. What has changed from what we had prior to us to plan working on it, it was our ordinance had, you could have 4 chickens. There was an application process and then a checking of the neighbors to see if they would approve. And that the chickens had to stay in a coop. The changes was we're treating chickens. We've added ducks, so you can have chickens or ducks. All right, so that was added. We went from 4 to 6, and that was a resident sent us a lot of research saying a healthy flock is 6. So we moved the number up to 6 chickens or ducks. We're treating them just like other animals in the village where you just need a license. So there won't be an application fee and then a license. It's just a license. So there isn't the checking of the neighbors, and that now they can roam in a fenced in area versus just being in a coop. Those were the main changes that plan have pushed to the board. Cameron.
Just to be clear, it's a total of 6 birds.
Right.
That can be chickens or ducks, not 6 ducks and 6 chickens.
Right, that is correct. All right, do I have a motion?
All motion to approve the changes to the chicken/duck ordinance.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
All right, discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. All right, that one's off our list. All right, discussion and possible action regarding village sign ordinance. A quick summary of the changes that are in that ordinance is, we'll start with the easy ones, the yard sign, our past ordinance on like political signs. And some of that were found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court probably 5-6 years ago. Verona just paid lots of money to have their sign ordinance redone, so we basically just copied theirs on yard sign. So that's what you see right there. We did modify, plan did modify a little bit on the days for political signs. The other part that changed is currently the ordinance for placing signs on businesses. You could put one, you could have a total of two. One could be facing a right of way, the other could be facing a parking lot with at least 8 stalls. That has been modified to, you could do two, you can put them on 2 sides of your building, it doesn't matter if it's a right of way, and if there's 7 parking stalls or 10 parking stalls, you can put it on whatever you want. The other one was, in our ordinance, there's a definition of a pylon sign. And the definition of a pylon sign is basically 2 posts with a sign between, or a single post with a sign on top. If you look, quite a few of our business signs that are not attached to buildings are pylon signs. You look at the bank, Xander Place, the funeral home, the dentist office, both of our schools, the middle school and Park School, every one of the village signs are all directed as pylon signs, and it says under no circumstances will we put pylon signs. So we modified that to another category that is a 2-posted sign, and it follows the regulations of a monument sign. So it basically allows all those signs that we have out there, and it has the same restrictions if they were a monument sign. So those are the basic changes. There are small languages that we changed to clean things up so it all met. If this passes, my plan is to go to the next chambers meeting, let them know of all the changes, ask them to send it out to all their membership so they have it. And if we can get some self-compliance on some of the signs that do not fit code yet, try to do that. If not, then Brian will send letters and do some follow-up on that. So that's kind of where we're at with the changes to the sign ordinance and what the process will be after tonight. So are there any questions? So go ahead, Cody.
So any of these signs that don't fit the new ordinance would not be grandfathered to be required for change?
Certain ones that, yes, some would be. And I'll give you an example. We have it where you're not supposed to have any feathered signs, you know, the ones that blow in the wind. The car dealership has a line of those. So those wouldn't be grandfathered in, and I think people still wanna, I mean, we don't want the whole road with those types, so that would be one example, I think, and I don't know this for sure, but it's been brought to my attention by a number of people. Northwest has those huge signs that advertise their secondhand store down there. Yeah, that might not meet code by the square footage. We didn't change any of that, so. You know, my thought is, if the chambers has some concerns, they can certainly bring it to it, but there's so many changes now. I wanted to get out. I think this is reasonable. It brings a lot, almost 95% of the signs in. I'm looking at waiving. I'm not looking to go after people who didn't permit, because all of these should have been permitted. I'm not going to waste staff time looking if they were permitted and trying to get that. So we're moving on from that point. But I think there are some.
As long as we're not like forcing a business to change the sign.
No, no. And they would still have, just so everybody knows the process, they would come to Brian and he would deny it, and then they would appeal it to the board. That's kind of how the process, so we always have the final word on it. So there's still an avenue.
Question on the American Legion flag that they put out on certain holidays and so forth. Does this affect them at all?
No,
Okay, just double check.
yeah, no, that shouldn't, no.
The ordinance specifically says the flag of the United States isn't considered a sign.
Yeah, no, we're very good on that. And again, you know, if someone has a birthday sign up for more than whatever is the temporary, I don't know what the time of period, we're not gonna be tracking people down. We just need to have some order, and we need to be able to have an ordinance that we can enforce. That's the bottom line. And we're not trying to go after people at all. We're just trying to get where everybody's comfortable with the ordinance, and then we just have to apply it and make sure we do it. So that's where we're at. Anything else?
Why concerns that we do it now or after a motion?
Okay, are you looking to change language?
Yeah, like concerns.
Then let's talk about it now, because I don't want to have an amendment on top of an amendment on top of amendment. So so when we do the one motion, we can cover if other people have changes. All right, go ahead.
Okay, okay, basically, I'm fine with the incorporation of the dual post sign into our ordinance, even though many of the ones that exist out there, the schools and everything, they're already grandfathered into the current ordinance the way that it stands. If we remove that, we just wouldn't be allowing additional dual post sign to be established in the village. All the ones that were already there were already permitted or grandfathered. But including it, since people seem to enjoy putting those up, I don't have a big deal with it. My one concern though is with the arm and post sign, like the pylon sign, we just agreed is a tall one that isn't there. But with the arm and post sign, when you read it, it talks about a small scale freestanding sign mounted to a post with a bracket outstanding, and the sign can be attached to it. But inside of the monument and the dual post sign, they've added in language, or at least with the dual post sign, that the sign has to be within 3 feet from the ground. On our arm and post sign, we don't have that requirement. I think that should be included in that definition. Otherwise, if it's just an arm, you could have a sign that's 8 feet tall, and the sign come out and be 3 feet, and it's 5 feet from the ground, which is what I think our ordinance is trying to avoid. It's basically you're allowing an arm and post sign to become a tall pylon sign essentially. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I'm writing them down. So
Okay.
keep going.
So basically, since we added in the 3 feet from the ground for the dual post, I think that should be included in the arm and post. So that-
Okay, I'm writing these down, and then we'll discuss them. Just list them so we have,
Okay. The other one is when I was reading the sign ordinance, it wasn't specifically discussed during your discussion, but I just wanted to let it be known that it might be, and I don't know what this is. When it goes over, it's just on page 2 of the ordinance, it talks about community information signs.
yeah.
And I don't really know what that means. I mean, it says a sign which displays information of general interest to the community regarding scheduled public events, activities, and public facilities. So public facility could be at the pool.
Well, it's like the one that says to the school and the one that says to the pool.
Well, those are more called directional wayfinding signs. I'm serious.
Okay.
There's like definitions for all kinds of signs in here, but
Yeah.
basically what I'm saying is that this community information sign, which, and it says community information signs do not include bulletin boards. So it's some sort of,
Like a kiosk.
yeah, I don't know if it's a kiosk or what it is, but all I know is that the first line under it says a monument sign is the only allowable configuration for community information signs. Do you still want that since?
I would think, I don't have a problem with that. But if you want, what do you want? Tell us what you want. I mean,
Well,
I'm fine with that language.
Well,
Because most of them are mounted on a monument or to a building. They show you a map of the village and where things are. I mean,
is okay, but See, but that's what my question is that it says community information. You say it's mount, okay, so it gives you a map. Would the map for the bike trail, the mountain bike trail, be considered a community information sign? Because that is a dual post sign there. Would that be required to be a monument sign, since it says monument sign is the only allowable configuration? If we just added something as simple as a dual post sign or a monument sign is the only allowable configuration, then we're pretty
If
well
that's what you're
covered.
proposing, I don't want to, that's what you're proposing?
Well, if you put that in, then we aren't bound to these being monument signs, which if you're
Okay.
trying to include a definition for dual post signs, then you just expanded the area for these.
That if you just said like any community information
Or-
sign has to follow the above listed signs. Is a community information sign like Lions Club Rock Thread? See, because that's a dual post with a banner. between
But
them.
for-
Yeah, I agree.
I would just say as long as the community information sign follows these.
The above mentioned sign, I like that language.
Well, which
You just-
above mentioned sign?
It doesn't matter, if someone wants to do an informational that's a post and arm, it has to meet that, if it's dual post, it meets that, if it's a monument, it meets that. I think that's a great solution, why are we separating it?
Well, okay, first of all, what you're talking about, this would be these are permanent signs, not broad.
No, but
whatever.
but I think his statement makes
It
sense,
fits the scope. of what-
right?
Yeah.
Or the other alternative is just completely get rid of the line, then you're not limiting the sign type.
Well, you mean just get rid of that whole,
If you get rid of, if you
Yeah.
aren't limiting a community, it says a monument says the only allowable figure, if you strike number one, then a community information sign, like is the big thing out there that says welcome to our community at the corner of, across from the Quick Trip, is that a community information sign? See, I don't know what one is.
well,
You see, you get what I'm saying?
let's just get rid of it then. We're gonna just get, that would be mine, okay, what's your next
I mean,
one?
because if you strike that, then the allowable ones are arm post monument
Right,
and
right.
dual, then it just becomes one of those, and it just allows flexibility.
All right.
So those, and then, okay, then this is, I myself, I don't like the signs being allowed on the side of buildings, I don't like the changes being made to the on-building locations of, you get 2 signs per building. I like the idea of it being allowed facing a public right of way or facing a parking lot. Those are general areas where the public would be allowed to be at and looking at the building and see it. All right, now, I understand the idea of the side facade as people driving down right of ways, but this allows for an expansion of signs on sides of buildings, which I think our ordinance was originally trying to prevent from happening.
I'm gonna disagree. We allow right now 2 of them. And that's all we're changing. The only difference is they have an option of what 2 sides of their building they want. That's the only change, Michael.
Here's my argument with that. So we have a right of way restriction on Main Street of certain businesses that they can't have a sign that sticks out. And if you want to be business friendly, they should be able to monitor, have a sign on the side of their building. Otherwise, if you're trying to drive by and see what it is, take your car on Main Street, like you want to revitalize Main Street, right? If it takes a couple of signs that have to be approved, so be it.
That's exactly the intent. And we've had that. And the big one the one that's right there that's kind of brought this to head is at Jones. And you can, because it's a triangle, you can clearly see it from 14 and from Church Street, which is more than what you would see if it was on the parking lot side. So that was what the change and why it was coming. We need to let businesses be able to let people know where they're at. But anyways, I've got that down.
Okay.
What else you got?
My other concern is specifically, okay, so now, I might be the only one voting against this. So it sounds like the signs are gonna go on the sides of buildings. So then my concern then becomes, how are we monitoring the size of these signs on the sides of buildings?
Since they meet just the requirements of the sign size. We're not changing that part of it.
Okay, but our sign ordinance was written assuming that signs had frontage on them. Now you're putting a sign on the side of a building frontage by the definition of the sign code is the building on the side of a right of way. Now you're putting a sign where there isn't a right of way. So just let me just speak and
Yeah.
explain it for a second, okay? Because when you read it, the maximum area of an on-building sign is 1 foot of sign area per 1 foot of building frontage length. Building frontage length means if you're looking from a road, you're looking at it, it has 80 feet of frontage on the road, it can put up or minimum of 50 feet, or it can put up 80 feet. Now, when you're moving the sign to the side, it actually has 0 feet of building frontage, because none of it is on the roadway. So that means, does it default to the minimum of 50 square feet? Because that's how it's written right now, what would happen.
Yes, it's no different than the one that if you have it in your parking lot, right?
Yeah,
We have it for some magical number, they said 8 stalls. I don't know the difference between 7 and 8,
right.
why one was. So it would be the same thing, the calculation on that. The exact same calculation.
In terms of what that would be.
The other side, see, I'm not getting hung up with if there's a parking lot there, or there's a green space, or there's a parking lot from another business. The idea is the size doesn't change with the change of this ordinance. Whatever we allowed currently is allowed under the new system. The only difference is if you look at that drawing, it's just gonna show where it can be on any of the sides.
Right. Okay,
But they're still limited to 2.
Yeah. And
Okay.
not in residential, and then if,
right, okay, so that being said, with the way it's written, like that sun, the second signage that's on the side of the building, that's gonna be limited to 50 square feet then.
whatever I don't know whatever our ordinance says,
And I also.
we aren't changing.
And I
it.
also think that the parking lot side one would be limited to 50 square feet also, because the parking lot on the back doesn't have any frontage. It defaults to 50 square feet. then.
If that's what the ordinance
Okay.
is, that's what the ordinance is. I'm not gonna,
Okay, well, I'm just saying like what
Yeah.
it says,
yeah,
you
okay.
know. Okay.
How big is 50 feet?
Well, think about it.
50
Think
square
of a
feet.
sign that's 50 feet long with 1 foot high.
I know.
Or-
That's a long
or
sign.
5 by 10, it's probably
Yeah.
the size of
Yeah,
the
it's-
board there, close to.
It's a pretty good size. sign.
Well, and it's also controlled by the size of the
The building.
building. So,
Yeah,
like, you know, a small building can't cover a wall with one giant sign.
right. That's what I'm saying. We didn't touch
It
that.
scales, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, if it's the side of a building that doesn't have a road next to it, it doesn't scale, it's just 50 feet, because it doesn't have any frontage.
Well.
Whatever the parking lot, we did,
Well, is the problem the definition of frontage?
The problem isn't, I'm fine with it, I'm fine with limiting it to 50 feet, because that's the minimum.
all right, so that's what we have. So you're fine with that, then there's no need for change.
No.
Okay, so what else do you got?
That might have been it.
Okay, so we're using the base changes that we talked about. So his first interest is in the arm post, putting the 3 foot requirement to the post arm sign.
But 3 feet up is not very high.
It
I mean,
kind of
like-
defeats the purpose of what
Right.
the pictures were of the.
Right, when I think of like the old Shelton sign or whatever, like up above, that could have been a swing one up, and that'd be a lot higher than 3 feet. If you did that in the building.
No, this isn't on the building, this is mounted on the ground.
Like a real estate sign.
Oh,
No,
Yeah,
no, this is,
I thought it was coming out.
no,
the
this, because basically, the reason why I'm suggesting 3 feet is because we say for a dual post sign. And the signs here, we said that the inside of here right now, the way it's written is that the sign has to start 3 feet from the ground. I'm just saying we should include that restraint on the arm post, which is basically a sign with 1 pole.
But the pictures of the arm and posts. I mean, they looked like, smart doesn't work, you know, it was like a very short top. And we did say that it couldn't swing for
Right.
safety concerns.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, it's not on there.
no, go, hey, Brian, can you
Yeah,
pull up and show the
No,
post?
that wasn't the picture that was given to the arm post. That's
No, there's a section that has them all.
That's more of a pylon sign, which is what's trying to be avoided.
No, it's gotta be the other way. Oh, you don't have the whole.
I don't have the
ordinance
full
there.
one here, yeah.
Let me scale for you. I mean, that was kind of what they were looking for.
This is
the arm
this is
post
the
one.
this is the picture from the ordinance with the arm post sign.
There was a smaller one.
3 feet is not very high.
No, but what he's saying is you're gonna put one in that's consistent with all the other signs that we have. That's it. I think some arm posts, and I agree with Cameron, we're supposed to be higher up where you can walk under them.
Or like come on like 2 short chains or
Right,
something.
that's
Yeah.
what I
But we
was
said they
thinking.
can't move. so-
Right, so they're,
Right, that's what shuffle.
I don't think anybody's
That's
gonna
what
go with that style anymore, but.
Hey,
You see,
I mean, if they can't move, I
That's
guess
why-
I don't see why it has to be 3 feet from the ground.
the reason because
You just kind of explained it.
this is a pylon sign, right? Like where it's in the pole is in the middle and goes up. These are disallowed in the village specifically because the sign is elevated. That's why we have the 3 feet. So if you move the pole on the pylon sign over to the side, you just basically created an arm and post sign, but you haven't placed a limit on how far from the ground the sign has to begin.
Well, the pylon sign, if I'm recalling correctly from the planning committee meetings, was like super high ones, like that was the point of it. It had nothing, like, I think we're talking about apples and oranges here a little bit.
I don't.
No, there's a number of pylon signs, like on Bourbon Road.
Yeah.
No, I
You
know,
go on
but
Bourbon, they're
Like,
fairly short,
even if
those
you
are
have-
grandfathered in, but
And that's
if that
what-
sign needs to get replaced, they could not do the same, that style.
sure,
But they, without the 3-foot limitation of the arm and post, all they'd have to do is move the pole over to one side and they could have a sign 8 feet off the ground and have 2 feet of sign above it. And that I don't think is the intent of it. Like, we're disallowing pylon signs, we should make sure the sign on the arm and post sign meets the 3-foot.
Let me just get so the proposal is to have that 3 feet limit, just show of hands who are in favor of that. All right. So the next one is, we're removing all language related to the community side.
Oh, no, just number 1, there are 8 subsections under there, it's just number 1 that limits it to a monument sign.
Okay, all right, and the other ones, what's the other ones? I don't have that part number.
Well, the other ones are like, the following entities can have these.
Oh, okay.
It says the shall not exceed 100 square feet.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
like other stuff. It was the only one that said,
Okay, so eliminate number 1 of the community,
of the, yeah, I could, section 8703D1,
87 what?
03 D sub 1.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with removing that? Then we don't,
just I don't have it up in front of me.
87, I get 87.
87.03 D sub 1.
So this would just become number 1.
Yeah. and that's
Yeah,
basically what
so we're
it-
just
what would be
eliminating,
removed in all those, 'cause you're just
The
eliminating
type of
the
sign it has to be, it can be any legal sign.
Basically, what's in pink is gone, number 2.
You comfortable? All right, so that one we'll remember that we'll make that modification. All right, the next one is the 2 building signs. What are people's, I know Mike doesn't want it on a non-right of way or parking lot side. Is everybody else comfortable with how it's written?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one is, and your 4th one was what again?
Nothing, I was just
Oh.
asking about sign size, and
Okay.
you just said we're just gonna go with
So-
what's written, so. fine.
So can I have a motion to accept the recommendations for plan with the addition of removing 87.03 D sub 1?
I will make that motion that we accept, let me find it again. We accept the resolution, let's see, of the village sign ordinance with removing, what is number 1? What is that number? Is
With an
87.
addition,
With an addition.
addition to remove 87.03 D sub 1.
Someone, that's
Did you
exactly
get
what I
that?
said.
So we're accepting the resolution with the addition of removing the language of 87.03 D sub 1. Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
All right, any more
Ryan's got
discuss? What's that?
If Ryan's got that.
Well, it's not too bad. We're just
Yeah.
adding the,
Just
Yeah.
writing.
yeah. All right,
Listening to the minutes.
any more discussion? Roll call vote.
In order, trustee Polakowski,
No,
trustee Brooklyn,
Yes.
trustee Bratton,
Yes.
trustee Kettlebaiter,
Yes.
president Lightfoot.
Yes. All right, so we'll get this all written up. I'll get it to the chambers and we'll see where it goes from there. All right. All right, number six, discussion and possible action on approval of resolution to exercise option on 1601 Bourbon Road. Brian, you want to fill everybody up to date on the studies that we've done?
Sure. Within the packet, you were provided the results of 2 studies that were completed on the site per the request of the board. The first being an environmental phase 1 study of the property. The second being a wetland delineation study. The results of both were basically outlining and stating that there were no foreseen issues with the property. Phase 1 environmental study came back clean. There were no concerns on that front. The wetland delineation, the report is going to be submitted to the DNR to show the new area where the wetland exists. There were no concerns related to the hydric soil layers on the study as far as it preventing the village from having any cause for not being able to develop the site as what we're envisioning the needs to be for the village hall and police station and parking lot. So tonight, the board will need to decide whether we want to proceed with the option to purchase, and if so, that will get the ball rolling for the property to become village property.
All right, do I have a motion?
Not a motion.
Oh.
I've got some questions, because I mean, I'm reading through all this. It's all pretty to me, I have no idea what a lot of this stuff is being forward. Wish there was a little bit better explanation.
In what
As far as like, are we gonna run into some serious environmental costs with having the whole soil out and soil sit?
no, that was the reason we did that, is to show that we don't have any of that problem.
Because I read through this whole report,
The 400-page one or the
one,
wetland one?
the assured wetland delineation,
Yeah,
and I was looking at pictures and a lot of it was just confusing.
well, you want my honest opinion, that should have never happened. That's someone in the DNR drawing that. We had the same thing with the environmental corridor where it was going through buildings, and we just needed to go through the process to get it to where it needed to be. This is a similar situation. Anybody who looked at that site knew that wasn't wetlands. So we're safe there. And the environmental study, that's 400 pages and it was clean.
I'm not DNR, but yeah, I concur. I mean, the part of why you do this up front is you don't want to run into that after you bought it and say, oh crap, now what? So wetland impact is a no-no. You have some buffer. There's the one table where there's some buffers that they listed. The capital area regional planning commission, Carter City, because you're in Dane County, they'll have some slightly different offsets than what that report has. So that's something that you guys should make aware. Architects should be made aware of during design, but the fact that you're not impacting wetlands in any area that you want to build is.
And that wouldn't affect any type of building size or anything like.
No, my understanding is that it's after, it must be a steep drop too, so you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah,
about part of the, it's still part of your parcel, you still own a little segment of this, but in terms of where you would want any infrastructure.
It's the part that's up in railroad right away.
Mhm.
All right, that answers my question.
All right. All right. I'll make the motion. I make a motion to approve the resolution to exercise the options on 1601 Bourbon Road. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, we're at discussion. What are concerns for people here?
I guess. I know we had like talked about options for paying this, and I think we had voted for like one of them, and I guess I don't see that like outlined anywhere exactly which option we went with and how we're paying for this, or is that gonna come back to us? Or is
No,
that-
we approved the payment of, we approved how we would pay for this.
Okay, that was.
So that was all taken care of. It's a combination of the money that TID owes us, the amount over fund balance of the 20% and
Urban road stuff.
ARPA funds. So that's all taken. We don't need to do borrowing. We have cash to pay it. We've invested, we agreed to a price of $390. The appraisal came in at $395. We've got about, if we don't approve it, have spent about $17,000 because we have $10,000 we paid for the earnest money and almost $3,000 for the appraisal. I think the environmental study was around $3,000 and wetlands was about $1,500.
I think
That's-
so.
Are those
15
ballpark
is
figures? That's just
right.
coming from my head on it. So that's where we're at. Cody?
If I may, Chief, do you think that this is a viable spot for the police station?
You're asking an engineer question out of me, so.
I'm just
I think it's a good spot, locate placement wise, yes, I think having us next to the fire department is nice. And most, if you look around the state, a lot of places are going to public safety buildings where they're all kind of housed together, so I think it's, it's a good location. Will it be the center of town at some point, 15 years from now? Who knows, because things are growing, right? But I think it's a good spot, and the fire department responds from there, so. Don't have an issue.
And we have support letters from everybody. And that's the one question everybody asks me when I'm at the grocery store. When are we gonna go? So I think there's support for that right now.
I have questions on this building, this property. Will this building and property put up for sale?
Yes,
And the money that would take, help pay for the new buildings and property?
would it pay for the new building?
Will it help pay?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, we're in closed session tonight to talk about that. All right. I mean, we've put a lot of time and energy into this, folks. We need to keep moving forward if we want to get this done, and we can get it done. All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Bragg,
Yes.
trustee Calvater,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
Yes.
trustee Bertha,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right, we'll move in. Next step will be, just, I'm going to work with the fire department to get easement across their property so we can hook into the sidewalk, which is the Ice Age Trail part there. We'll do some public inputting in 2023. This will look to close, I think we have to close by October 15th. I think the date is, we had to make a decision by August 1st, and I think they give you so much. I think things are moving along pretty well right now. Like I say, we have a closed session that we'll be talking about a little bit more on it. All right, very good. We'll go to 7, discussion and possible action, village special event fees. So I have asked to put this on because we've kind of put our administrators in a very difficult spot. And what happens is we have permits that $50 for a permit to cover administrative costs for special events. Well, we're very inconsistent on who we charge. And so, one group will come in and say, hey, the administrator has always waive this fee, and then another organization comes in and we take the money from them. And again, I'm just talking about the special event fee. We still, if they rent out a park, we still do that. It's just this special event fee. So I don't think it's fair for Brian to make that call. So I think it's the board, we have to decide what we want to do. Now, what we've asked village staff, well, I've asked village staff for next year, we have a form for them to fill out all the costs, village costs for the different events that occur in Cross Plains. So we have an idea of what the cost is, so that's something we may look at future budgets to actually have a line item. But for now, until we get this done, how do we want to handle special event fees? That's the $50. Do we just say until we get this that no one has to pay, or are we going to define who has to pay, who doesn't have to pay? Again, we're still charging for the parks use and that kind of stuff, but this one it's just not fair for someone come up and one person gets a waiver and the other one doesn't. Judy.
So as far as, to clarify, a special event, like the Ironman coming through town, would they get charged?
Yes, that's a special.
That's a special event. And then like the St. Francis wants to do their little fun rate or their little fun run, would that be a special event? Would they get charged? I'm just
Like
asking
the
for those.
Norm Messer walk.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that.
I don't think they closed the road or needed us to do anything, so.
Okay.
I don't think it met the qualifications.
What's clarifies as a special event, I guess is my other question.
That's a good question. I don't know what the
Yeah,
definition is.
It's an ordinance. isn't it?
yeah,
Is it only when we close roads, like, or, well? and
it has to be like on public property,
Okay,
so like the church picnic, that's on private property, so that doesn't count.
but World's Fair, would it come in?
Yeah, that was in Bear Park. You probably rented Bear
Yeah.
Park.
Yep.
If
So
you
that's
need
different.
special services, you know, like for the parade, they need village staff to come and put out cones and close the road. If you need picnic tables moved, or, you know, anything that requires extra services or closing of roads or sidewalks or parks.
So then,
Michael?
who's getting charged and who isn't? Why don't we just charge everybody?
Well, because you're gonna have the Lions come in on Trout Day and they're gonna say, let's waive, and then we charge them $50 and then give them $500 for porta potties. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's
Is
one
it
of them. that-
nonprofit versus profit? I mean, is there a difference that way?
I
I'm
would
just
say
asking.
if
that.
it's your 501c
Right, is that the
Okay, we
difference
can
for
waive it.
nonprofit?
versus your.
But I even think Ironman is nonprofit.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many that get, I don't think there's many for-profits that do that. Because generally you don't, for-profits, you don't allow village staff or parks to be used for that unless they pay.
So do you know, did whoever organized the parade, Memorial Day parade, pay a special event fee?
I think we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. like-
American Legion, don't they run that?
No,
No.
I think the
This is the
chamber.
chamber.
I think that was kind of how this came up, was I said, hey, you owe it, and they were kind of, well, hey, in the past, it's always been waived. It's like, well, you should be charged, you know, so, yes.
You guys, we gotta decide
Yeah, I
as
think
a
that's
board, what do we
Yeah,
wanna
some of
do?
these Ones are getting waived and some aren't, and so the community members, they talk and then they get angry.
I feel like having just made a pass to spend $400,000, we can just say it's across the board fee. When people want more for the community, if it's another way to generate $800 of revenue during the course of the year, even though we're still putting out our staff and working, we can't just give it away anymore.
And 50 doesn't cover our cost. I mean, if
No,
they're moving
no.
picnic tables, I'm gonna tell you,
No.
that doesn't even cover
Exactly.
one person,
I'm
yeah.
looking at Middleton's right now, and they have just base is 100, but then as you go through and fill out the thing, there's, you know,
And that's what,
$50
that's
for
what,
that,
I gave
$50
them
for that.
Madison's the same way.
Right.
So that's the data we're gonna collect,
Mhm.
just so we have that, but that's gonna shut down and get people very angry if we do something that drastic. I mean, not that it's, at some point we can,
Well,
but
we don't have to do all of this. I mean, like, what is, I mean, there's a sign, if you have a sign at your event, there's a huge cost to Middleton. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that, but like if we have police out there closing roads and putting out cones, I mean, Memorial Day parade was great. But what did it cost us?
Well, it costs us a lot, but
But
people are gonna
Right.
say that is
Right.
one of the perks of me paying taxes is that we have these nice services and
Right,
effects.
I'm
We
not
have to be
saying-
very, that's why we want, before we jump into that, we really gotta collect the data, because I can tell you, sometimes law enforcement costs will well exceed what they can afford
Right.
to do it. So we have to, we need the data. But right now, I'm just looking at the $50 fee, because I want to make sure if he does it, he's got the backing of the boards, because you're gonna hear from people. You're gonna hear from people, and you gotta be able to say, that was our decision, not his decision.
My question,
Sorry.
do you have a copy of the form that we have? to
The current one?
fill out? That's something where if you say you want to collect data, can you put on there, what are you planning to have? Check this box, and we have something to start tracking if they're doing.
Well, we're actually putting it into a code where if the officers work in the parade for, let's say, 2 hours, they're gonna code it out in their pay. So at the end, we'll know exactly how much of all our staff, and then we'll know how many barricades and stuff like that. Yeah, we're breaking that down.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were harvesting data.
Yeah.
Because
Now, like I say, the big question, and this is what you get, is we're a nonprofit, we're providing a service to the village. Our fundraising, we give back all the money we make to the village, and in different things like the Lions and stuff they're saving for the pavilion. So I'm with you, and
The totals that we make.
Yeah, how many special events are there?
Yeah, I don't know, and I mean,
Handful.
just to be clear, I'm not saying we should profit off of the
Yeah.
fees
I was
here.
just-
Okay.
no, we
So if we're talking $250, is it worth like?
Ex-
Right.
now we're getting to where I'm coming from.
If it's 12 months, $250, I almost feel like you're right. We just forget it and just go for a while.
We just do a general waiver until we collect it, and then we relook and bring a fee structure back here that we think is reasonable.
When did you bring the fee structure back, just when we have more events?
Well, we have to,
once the new
We'll have to get a
law is
policy.
no, we're not gonna do that. No, we were looking at, I think we talked about it at the last staff meeting, so I'm hoping it'll start, let's say, September 1st. Because then we'll hit all the events, because most of our events are over now.
Correct.
Right, so we have to wait until we see how much we spend on trout days, how much we do on the wine walk, if it's a separate day, the Memorial Day.
Hill Valley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Golden Valley. See, now that's a little different because they rent the park, so we still get fees there. At least that's what Mike told me. There's a fee for using
Yeah,
the
because they're
park.
using the pavilion, then is there bathrooms and
That's why
stuff.
they hold on to tear down the shelter, start the shelter one too. So after going down.
Okay, yeah, that's what Mike told me, that this doesn't affect the park and the rental of the shelters and stuff like that. But we have to look at it, but I think before we make any drastic move, we really need to collect some data on what the dollars. I don't want to say people have to pay 50% of policing, and we find out it's $10,000, because that's gonna kill the events.
Right.
Well, right, that's like, so, if somebody wants to put the time into figuring out all this fee stuff, and then we're just gonna end up at the end of the day being like, it's $100 an event anyway, like, is it worth doing all that work?
Well, but you need to, I think it's important. Cameron was talking about people complaining about taxes and stuff. I think it's important that we do collect the data and say, well, did you know that we spent $25,000 on these special events that people enjoy, the parade, trout day, that kind of stuff. I mean, you have to have something. And I think it's worth collecting the data. Now, do we actually charge out that? That'll be a decision by the policymakers here on what we want to do.
I'm not doing.
Yeah, see, I think
So
there
he's
has
already
to,
like, he's not gonna charge, how much are we charging, so we're all like, we're gonna charge
Well,
anyway.
well,
then.
But now we know what we're not charging. At least we
Right.
can go back to
We're
them
trying
and
to be
say,
transparent.
we have saved.
Yes. and even if we don't charge, people have an awareness, they understand where some of their money goes. Now, it may be where we do something, or maybe we can change things, or people will take that into consideration and come up with efficiencies. You know, I just don't, I never think it hurts to collect data, so we know what we're talking about. We use it for discussion. It doesn't force you to have to make a decision.
So what are you looking for tonight, Jay? Like
I just want to give Brian a heads up. I want us to back whatever we decide. We need to back him up when he tells, because that's who they come to. So to me, I'm kind of, we charge everybody no more waivers. We don't charge anybody, or we somehow try to define which ones get charged, which ones don't. We're talking about probably a half dozen ones, I'm guessing.
I am fine with not charging anybody anything that's $250 or $300. Like, let's just make it all the same for everybody until we get the data and we do a thing like that. Oh, you need a motion. Oh, okay.
Well, that'd be a good motion, because then it's transparent.
Okay, I don't know.
All right, make that motion, sir.
I make a motion that the village suspends collecting of all special event fees.
Okay, special event fees.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure that's why it's written here. and
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
specifically the one fee line.
Yeah.
That we're trying to do.
All right, I got a second. Any other discussion?
I don't know if we should make it $0. I mean, I want to collect data and I want to figure out what makes sense to charge Google, and I want to make sure it's under, wouldn't prevent people from doing it, but
Right now, it's
Just-
$50.
I know, but to then say 0,
Wait, are we just suspending it till we find where, what was your motion again?
Yeah.
Just a second, just to suspend it for now, right?
What did I say?
Yeah.
Suspend.
Yeah,
Just
suspend it
suspend
until we-
it, just suspended it, which.
So basically,
make it
until
zero.
we get together with data and stuff, we're not
Right.
gonna charge the $50.
I guess since most of the events are already done for this year, and in case we don't get around to it, wouldn't it just be better to say, collect $50 across the board and no waivers? And
Well,
then
that-
once we get the data, we can.
Well,
Do you
figure out
wanna
what
get
makes
into
more
the
sense.
fights with it over $50 for the
No,
Legion
You're bringing.
and Trout Days
I can't.
and Chambers? I personally, there's a lot of battles to be
that's,
fighting.
I'm not out to get them, but.
No, I'm not, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I honestly believe we should be covering administrative, but until we have all the data and we can have a good policy, I don't want to leave it to Brian to pick and choose which ones he waivers. So to me, we either have to have a great definition or all or none, but if we do all, then we got to really make that argument. And again, I have a hard time saying we're going to charge the Lions Club $50 and then give them $500 for porta potties. That just, to me, doesn't make any sense. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
I want to be special event friendly in this town.
There we go.
Well, I do too, but there could be someone, I don't know, Plastic Ingenuity comes and, they have the money and they want to throw a massive party and then we get nothing out of it, right? Like, so I understand that doesn't happen, but it could.
When people ask me why taxes are so high, say we suspended the special event fees.
I just think, I think right now,
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth the battle to do everybody. I think we need to do the data collection because it goes to your very first point. Taxpayers need to know where their money's going and they need to understand this. So once we put it together, I have no problem having a public hearing on it.
Sure.
And saying, here's the data, what are you guys thinking we should do? They are providing, but should they pay something to cover some of the village costs because you're paying for that with your tax dollars? We need to get their input, right? And the only way to do that is by presenting. So that's my vision on it. We collect this, we do a public hearing and put it in the newsletter, put it in Facebook, whatever, and let's see what the public has to say about it. So the question is, I can't, if we do it now, we're gonna hit just about everybody because most of our events are in the spring. right?
Can we make a note to bring it up on the agenda of the July meeting?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're gonna definitely have that. Because we should have pretty good data there. Yeah. Yeah, that'll definitely be on there. All right, so the motion is to suspend the cost until we bring it back up. That's what the motion is. And I have a second. Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Calvater. Yes. Trustee Bratton.
Yes.
Trustee Brooklyn.
Yes.
Trustee Hartman, or trustee Paul.
Yes.
President Lightfoot.
Yes. All right, so there you go, Brian, you got your
Thank you.
answer. All right, number 8, discussion and possible action on Ace Hardware garbage enclosure. You saw that, that was part of the MOU for them to enclose their garbage area, so this is what they're proposing. It's pretty standard to what other businesses have.
So this picture there is like what they're gonna build, that fence thing.
The picture is actually of another business within the village that has an enclosure that I tried to take for them to show an example of, and they said they would be happy to use that as their model to go
They're
Oh,
off
trying
of
to
if
keep
we're
Dumpsters hidden.
basically.
Well, that was part of the MOU that we signed, and they actually caught it, we totally forgot about it, but they caught it, one of their corporate people caught that, said, well, we haven't done that, so they got a hold of the person that they hired, and they got a hold of us, so.
So they're asking if that's
They want-
an okay way to.
They want.
That, yes,
Similar
the
form
headquarters,
to that.
Neiman Foods wants the board to approve this, so,
So that doesn't blow back up.
yeah.
Correct.
I made a motion to approve the Ace Hardware garbage enclosure.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed, same, so moved. All right, 9 is just, everybody should have received their 2023 to 2027 capital improvement plan. We will start discussing that at next meeting. So there's really nothing we need to do for that tonight. All right, so do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion, go to closed session.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Calvater.
Yes.
Trustee Bratton.
Yes.
Trustee Paul.
Yes.
Trustee Brooklyn.
Yes.
President Lightfoot.
Yes. If we
Okay, so for online here. I'm
just
gonna-
shut us, is there anybody on there?
One person on,
Yeah, we're going into closed
So you want me
session, so,
to-
yep, just shut it down.
okay,
And then you'll have to bring it back up when we come
Okay.
out.
let me try to do